Okay.
Recognize the open meeting poster on the wall by the door. Roll call.
Donovan? Kleinschmidt?
Yes.
Lightline?
Yes.
Maloli?
Yes.
Nunn, yes. Oshner?
Yes.
Shelcock?
Yes.
Grummeyer?
Yes.
When do we see O'Connor?
And then we turn the meeting over to Mr. Norvell.
He's in. He signed his oath of office.
Okay, so he's got to be able to, so you got to call people.
O'Connor.
Here.
Our policy says that we sign and state an oath. Don't we do that anymore?
No, he came in and signed his oath and he notarized it. So
Okay.
it's official.
Well,
Is his name on it? Yes, welcome. We will, I'll take over until a president is elected here. So at this time, are there any nominations for president of the board?
I'm nominating Ms. Fillmore as president.
Dennis has been nominated by Mark. Any other nominations for president? Is there a motion to cease nominations?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Motion by Randy, seconded by Moore to cease nominations. Any further discussion? You want to vote by roll call for this? Sherry, you think is aye or?
Should be.
One candidate.
Waiting.
Any dissenters? Beats you. Dennis, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I'll help record if you want to. I got ballots here in the yellow and whatever. So,
We need a nomination for vice president.
I'll nominate Dave Oshner.
I want to nominate Sean.
I'll make a motion on nomination.
Is that a second?
Yeah.
yes.
Do you have a second?
Second.
So there are two nominated for vice president, Sean Malloy and Dave Oshner.
Fill out the little yellow piece of paper. You want to read them or Sherry record them?
Sean? 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 Dave? Sean? Sean? Dave? Dave?
What was it? I lost.
Yeah, is that a tie?
Was that a tie?
Yeah, it wasn't a tie. That sounded to me like.
I think it was 5-3.
Shit, let's go.
Sean is the vice president. Now we have nominations open for secretary.
Nominate, you Sherry in that?
Nominate Dave Oshner.
I move that we cease nominations.
Second that.
Yellow ballot
We
again,
have
please.
Dave and Sherry as the nominees. Dave? Dave? Sherry? 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 Dave? Yeah. Right. Sherry would be the secretary. Okay, have we done the legal meetings?
No, we have, that's the next step.
So we need declaration of legal meetings. Maybe?
Second.
Moved by Kleinschmidt and seconded by Malloy. Does this be declared a legal meeting? Roll call.
Kleinschmidt,
Yes.
Malilly,
Yes.
Nunn, yes. Oshner,
Yes.
Shelcock,
Yes.
Donovan, absent. O'Connor,
Yes.
Whiteline,
Yes.
and Delmeyer.
Yes. We need a motion to excuse the absence of Donovan.
So moved.
By Shelcock, seconded by Kleinschmidt. That the board excuse Donovan's absence. Roll call?
Shelcock,
Yes.
Kleinschmidt,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Nunn, yes. Oshner,
Yes.
Whiteline,
Yes.
Malilly,
Yes.
Delmeyer.
Yes. Before we go into public comment, I'm going to pass around a Christmas card for Mrs. Bailey's Bacon Bits, 2012. On the back, it says, "Thank you for everything you do for our school, Mrs. Bailey."
I think it's her pride group, her little group.
Oh,
Right,
Bacon
Steve?
Bits.
That's the bacon. They get to choose their own name.
And do we have any public comment this evening?
Step on up, Phil.
Well, the first thing I have to say tonight is brr.
Jesus.
I read the newspaper that January is School Board Recognition Month. I'm not sure if that's a national thing, a state deal, or whatever. But that got me thinking, a lot of times those words aren't said. So I'm here to say thank you to the school board members, Mr. Norvell, the principals, the teachers, and all of the school staff for the job that you guys do. In my opinion, Fillmore Central Public School System is an excellent school district, and the words thank you are not said enough for the job that you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you, Phil. We appreciate those kind words. Any other public comment? We'll go into reports from the administration. Mr. Rose.
I'll just highlight a couple of things that were on my report. Testing is going to get underway here shortly. We've had all of our staff trained on how to manage and handle the testing. Our first writing assessment will be held January the 31st at the high school. And you see where reading comes in March, science comes up later on in April, as well as math. We had several students who received recognition for their academic all-state, and with the NSAA, I've listed all of the activities and the names of those students. Very deserving. Mr. Scott was also our student of the month. Last thing I'll touch on is that we have Principal Honor Roll breakfast that will be held. This says February 1st. I may be wrong on that. It's on the calendar, and it is correct in the calendar. And all board members are invited to attend. If you can come, we'd be glad to have you here that way. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Rose?
Just a couple highlights. One, I guess, addition. We kicked our beginning of the semester off in a different way. We had challenged our students at the end of the semester that if we had underneath the 5% or less of our students who were on the down list, we'd have learning celebration. Well, we made that, and we had planned it for the day of the snowfall. And so we canceled that, but we did start the second semester with that. So we started with a learning celebration, and we treated the kids to some popcorn and a treat, and it was well received by the students, and the staff for their part should be recognized too. So it was a great way to kick the year off. Just kind of what Mr. Rowe said, I touched upon the assessments. For the writing assessment on January 23rd and 4th, we will be serving breakfast in the morning for the students like they've done in the past, and those arrangements have been made. And besides that, I really don't have anything to add to my report.
Questions?
Just a few highlights. Of course, the 4th grade participates in the writing assessment, so we'll be taking that. We do breakfast as well, and when we do the NISA assessments in the elementary, we shuffle our schedule around since those can for sure be taken in the morning slot and have breakfast and slide right into that in the afternoon time. So spring is assessment season, so we'll be getting the NISA underway, ICDS, our reading test, so all those things are scheduled and gearing up. Also, with the second semester comes gearing up for next year already. So this week we'll be sending out the kindergarten packets for next year's kindergarten class. They'll be going out Friday based on the families we know that have kindergarten age kids. So believe it or not, it is that season. We also have a new student teacher on our team. Stephanie Studenbaker is student teaching with Doreen Shelkoff. She started today. So if you see her, introduce yourself, and always welcome in the building.
Question?
Sure. Again, we welcome PJ, who was elected to the board in November. A little bit on the science room timeline, as I talked with the architects again last week, is they plan on getting the documents done, and we'll advertise by our bidding policy in the Nebraska Signal. Of course, we don't know how many people that would entail, so they'll make sure they advertise also on websites and whatever to some of the construction groups. And we hope to do that in time to have then the bids turned in and back to the board by the March board meeting, so that the board could either determine to choose a bidder or not choose a bidder, whatever, after they look at those proposals. I left, our conference does a little data survey every year, and so I left a copy there for you for your information. It just looks at the 11 schools in the conference in a lot of different areas, per pupil cost and budget and state aid and lots of different things, total teaching staff, FTE, enrollment, but it's good information to have, so you kind of can compare Fillmore Central with the rest of the conference. We normally try to line up a board strategic planning session in February, so you might be thinking of that, and then maybe I'll generate an email next week with some prospective dates so that Dennis and I can plan on that. So be looking at your calendars. We normally do a Monday. We just do it as a separate Monday than a board meeting. But if that doesn't work, then we'll try to work that around. I asked Mr. Stratman to come tonight and have him kind of go through how we do our computer checkout and repair and end of the year policy. So Jerry, I think most of you know Mr. Stratman. If you could come up, and he's going to walk you through the process that we use. This is the third year of our laptop program.
Good evening. I brought a computer just to show you some things. When we check out computers in fall, the parents and students are required to go through a computer orientation, where at that orientation I explain to them, you know, the process about how the computer is supposed to be used for education reasons. And we brought it to educate the students, not to entertain the students, but sometimes that doesn't always hold true. Anyway, I also go through and explain to them that we do have insurance with Apple that we were basically required to purchase when we made the lease. And that covers such things if the hard drive goes bad or the camera goes bad or something like that. It doesn't cover such things as, for example, I don't know how well you can see this, but this computer has been dropped and it's dented on the corner. So if that computer were to go bad, Apple would say the reason it went bad is because it's been dropped and it's jarred something inside and it no longer repaired. That's when the insurance process comes in. At the orientation meeting, I also explained to the parents they have the option of taking school insurance, which we are self-insuring, which costs the students $35, and I think there's a maximum for a family. I can't remember what that is, but I know there's...
I think not more than 2 students.
No, something like that. I know Mrs. Yates, she had 4 of them at one time. But they have that option, where they have the option of using your homeowner's insurance. I recommend to parents that it's probably a better thing to, instead of trying to fight with your insurance agency or your insurance company to try to pay for things, that it's probably be cheaper for you to take the $35 and have it covered that way. On the $35, the first instance, it's because the student or parent has to pay 10%. The second instance, in that year, in that school year, it's 25%. And then I think it goes to 50%. I'm not sure, but I believe it's 50%. If this computer would quit working now, it seems to be working all right now, but if this one would quit working, I'd have to send it into Apple to get it repaired. They would say, you know, it's because of the dent in it. And I just printed off a copy here. If you'd like to look at it, if not, I don't care, but I'll pass these out. This is the kind of report we get back from Apple. It's nothing that, you know, I have any control over, or Mr. Woodell has any control over. That's just the way Apple does business.
It was trapped, yeah.
Trip him.
Sorry, Trav, Jerry.
Trip him.
But you can see, and this would be a typical report that this computer would come back from, where it says, display camshell, loss of mechanical physical damage, enclosure, mechanical cosmetic damage, enclosure, mechanical cosmetic damage. So these things would be things that would not be covered, because anytime it says mechanical or physical damage, it means that something's been jarred loose inside because it's been dropped or there's actual physical damage to it. The computer itself basically consists of three components, and the top part's called the clamshell, and then there's a bottom case and then the middle case. And part of the reason it costs as much, and I didn't go over the cost of this yet, but part of the reason it costs as much because this middle case, which is the basic component that holds the computer workings, is machined out of a solid piece of aluminum. So it takes a little bit of expense, you know, to have that done. I know they've got everything set up so it doesn't cost them much, but the initial process of getting all set up and everything takes some money. If this damage here, we had to send it in because the hard drive quit working or something, they would say this would be a mechanical damage which would probably cost around $449, or for the student about $45 if it was the first case. I have had students that have left their pencils inside the computer, closed it, and shattered the screen. Well, that's going to be another. I mean, that's basically the same thing as the top being damaged. They're going to charge you the $449. If there's damage to the bottom case as well as having the screen cracked, for example, if this has got dents in it but everything's working inside, it's going to be about another $100 or about $550 or $49. If they happen to, and this is one thing I caution students, and I know that it happens during the day. I try not to let it happen during my class, but I can't be in every class, but students will be drinking a Coke or something and have it set next to their computer. But I caution them at that orientation, you know, keep liquids away. A liquid spill on a computer basically destroys it. And that's $774.95 for a liquid spill. Now, if you have dented the corner, bashed the screen, and spilled liquid, it's still $774.95. That's the maximum they charge you. So basically, you almost get a new computer if it's still all in one piece. We did have one instance where there was computers in a car wreck and it came back in 3 pieces and they wouldn't do anything with that. I recommend to students to leave their computers in their bags, put the bag in their backpack, which gives it that little bit more protection. Some of them say, yeah, but it doesn't fit in my backpack. Well, so I guess that's up to them if they don't want to. One thing we tell students, when you're walking down the halls, don't be walking down the halls with your computer open because somebody's going to bump you and either crack the screen or something else. When we check the computers in, the process I go through is basically I do a quick physical check because I have 40 students usually here, or at the seniors particularly, because they get to check theirs in earlier, and other days it's the other 135 of them. But so I do a quick physical check. I ask them, is it working? They say yes. You know, I say okay, and then I'll check them off. They have to check in their computer. They check in their adapter, the little duck head they call it that slips into the adapter that will plug into an outlet, and the cord. Those 3 things. If they're missing that little duck head, that's $9 for us to replace that. And so I feel that when a freshman comes in and they get a computer, they should get the same computer that a senior got when he got his new. So if I give this one to a freshman and something goes wrong with it, he never drops it, or she never drops it, but we send it into Apple. Apple said, well, it's caused because of that dent. It's not fair to that freshman to have to pay the money to get it repaired when it was that person in the year before that did it. After the initial check, if they're dented, I send them all into ESU 6, which then sends them on to Apple. If they can't repair them there, they send them to Apple. And it's really not ESU 6, it's a regional repair center, which is contracted by ESU 6. So we pay a little bit to them every year just to have them under contract to make repairs. The next thing I do, if it looks okay, then I go in and re-image them. In other words, go ahead and wipe everything off the hard drive and put all the new software back on it. When I'm doing that, I check to make sure that the camera works. There's a camera in all of them. Make sure that the floppy, or not the floppy, but the DVD drive works. So I know everything's working when I get it re-imaged. And then it's put up and ready to go out the next fall. Now, I probably covered more than you wanted to hear. Does anyone have any questions on it?
So let's say that was a sophomore, boys.
Okay.
So
All right, let's say it was a freshman and they turned it in,
Yes.
and this was the first year.
Yeah, there you go.
They get it back just like this.
So even though it has the dent, they just get it, so.
They get it back.
So that, they don't have to deal with that issue till they're a senior and they're turning, if it keeps running.
If it keeps running.
Okay. Then let's say he turns it in as a senior and it's got that dent and we've got issues. Who bills just like Apple, will you get a bill from Apple?
This is what we get, and we get another little slip that comes back from the Regional Repair Center.
Okay.
And the reason I didn't give you one of those, because all of them I have, I always write the student's name on it. And I didn't want to have anybody's name on anything.
Okay.
And that's built, and then I make a copy of it, I give Jody a copy of it, and Jody then sends the bills out.
So the school initially does pay
The
the
school
bill,
pays for the bill.
the parent pays the school.
The school parent pays the
Okay.
school.
All right.
And when we got these computers, and when we get them, and I'm assuming we're going to get them again when our lease is up, but the kids are getting about an $1,100 computer. And even if they, basically destroy it, if it's only going to cost them $75 to fix it, that's a pretty good investment. After it costs you $110 because you're $35 for the insurance. I think that's a pretty good investment.
It's $35 a year.
Per year.
Per year, each year, yes.
So that $35 goes to Apple.
No, that $35 goes to Fillmore Central Public Schools. We are self-insuring these.
It sits in a student fee account. And then we use that money to pay for repairs, and then money we get back from parents then goes back into that account to replenish the money.
Okay.
It zeroes out every year though. In fact, we spend more. We spend more as Fillmore Central to fix the computers than we get back in, because you pay a $700 bill and we get 35 plus 70 to 10%, so then we pay out more. But our theory is, if we had computer labs and computers all through the school, we'd be paying so much every year to maintain them anyway.
So when the student checks out the computer, they fill out a form that has the contract.
Yes, and I didn't bring any of those, but it's basically a contract that says, yes, I have insurance, I understand that I'm not supposed to download things and all this kind of stuff.
Okay, I've got a couple of those. Some have serial numbers on them and some don't.
All the computers have serial numbers.
Oh, I know the computers do, but some of these contracts didn't have serial
Well,
numbers.
the reason they don't have serial numbers is because I record the serial numbers. I have them all recorded in my office. And I told the parents, I said, don't worry about getting the serial number. The first year we handed them out, it was kind of a headache because we had to record the serial number, the kid's name and everything, who got what computer. After that time, when I get the new freshmen coming in, I already have them recorded who's getting which computer. So the serial numbers are already recorded.
Okay. I guess the concern that some of the parents had that came up this last year was that those computers, when the seniors turned them in, they were working, they seemed to be fine, everything was checked off. And then there were bills that came like 6 weeks, 2 months later, but it was unanticipated. Is there something that we can do, like a policy we can put in place?
Well, if you wanted to hire me so I'd be here 12 months a year, yeah, because I'm done at the end of May, or not the end of May, when school's out. I come in during the summer, but my summers are kind of precious to me. You know, I go to Maine to see my son, and sometimes these don't get sent in right away.
Well, I'm
They
not
appear to
saying
be working.
that would have to be your job, but is there something that we can put in place so that it's not a surprise to the parents? You know, that we go through, maybe it's another student, yes, there's, you know, there's a dent here, or there's a scratch, or whatever it might happen to be. So that we've got some, the parents, the students, and someone from the school, maybe, a school board member.
If they insure them though, if they're insured for the school year, it should be covered. I mean, either through the school policy or through their homeowner's insurance, regardless of whether we notify them May 15th or July 15th, they should be covered.
Well, they were covered, but when they were turned in, the computers were working, they looked fine, and so the parents assumed that they were done, it was done.
A computer can look fine one minute and be bad the next.
I got that, but we need to somehow explain that then to parents, so it's not a surprise.
What do we do, Jim, in our meetings, in our parent meetings? Do we talk about, make sure they keep the insurance through the school year?
I think we touched base at the school, they should keep it through the school year, through the calendar portion of it. You know, the only other, I guess, when we send them in, when they get turned in, we go ahead and give them, like Jerry said, a quick look over. But we send them on, and we take, as Jerry said, we basically take the word of the student that's working properly, instead of going ahead and looking at it.
This is the third year of it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So the kids that graduated this year had them 2 years or 3 years?
This is the third year.
These kids have it 3 years this year.
This spring will be the third.
Well, this is the third year. They're in their third year
Right,
of the
right.
computer.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to, is the freshmen that started, are they graduating this year, is that right?
No.
Maybe
One more
juniors,
year.
sophomores.
One more year, okay. Well, I mean, they do wear, we all know that.
One
So
thing-
there's probably a better chance that, you know, well, my daughter was the first year. Well, probably not much happened to it unless she dropped it. But after 4 years, they may not remember just what you're talking about, that, hey, I dropped that my freshman or sophomore year.
But that's the thing about, I mean, even if it's been dropped, but if it hasn't been dropped and everything's working fine, and I have to turn it in, it's got a hard drive, because of our Apple Care, it's under warranty.
Right. But, so they would pay 4 years of insurance, I guess is what I'm saying, to ensure that it only cost them 10%,
Right.
if that was their only instance. And at 4 years or 10.
One thing
It's a
that,
3-year lease.
it's a 3-year lease.
We're gonna have all new
They'll all be
computers
in 3. Oh,
next
so there'll never be
year.
a 4 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they'll have to pay insurance for all 4 years of high school.
Right.
Right. And what happens to, this is the end of the third year, what's going to happen to these computers?
So that's something we've talked about, and I was just going to bring up that you might want to consider what you want to do with these computers. I know we probably can move some of them to the middle school, either in a lab situation. I don't know if Mr. Atkinson wants, you know, 7th and 8th graders to have take-home computers or not. Or we could put them, you know, a lab of 20 computers in every classroom.
We're still
We're debating on what to do with it.
We'll have 180 computers, and I know that the private school over here, I've talked to her about, we give them some, and we'll look and see what our middle school can use. And we might have teacher computers that need replaced, that these would be better than. And Apple will let us have them after the lease is over for $1 each, which for 180 bucks, we can have all of them, so we might as well do it, so.
You know, I've had students talk to me about, well, can I buy my computer when I graduate? Well, you know, that's something we haven't talked about, and that's nothing for me to make that decision. You know, that's for you people to make that decision, what you want to do with it. And I don't know if legally you can sell a computer to an individual and say, unless you open it up to the public. So I don't know the legality of that, so, but that's something you have to consider.
So when you check them, Jerry, would you, what do you consider normal wear and tear? Like scratches on the keys?
This would not be normal wear and tear.
Right, I understand.
Actually, I've had some that, you know, they've been like, been next to a pencil and there's dents in the top or dents in the bottom. I've sent them up there and to Milford, and they said, these dents will not void Apple Care. So, in other words, those little dents are considered normal.
Okay. It's
Now, I
usually
had
the
one just-
exterior.
Yeah,
It's usually the corners. The corners are kind of the key,
Yeah.
you know.
and I had one that I just sent in today. When you open it up, there's a dent about 1/8 of an inch right there. I asked the student how that happened. He says, I don't know. I left the room and I came back, it was that way.
Yeah,
So, who knows?
shit.
I said, well, I'm going to tell you right now, be prepared, because that dent's probably going to cause it, because the hard drive sits right below that. And his computer wouldn't boot. So I said, you're probably going to have a bill that you're going to have to pay for that one. Any other questions?
What was the total repair bill for all computers last year? Wasn't it over 20,000?
I really don't know.
I think it was, I'm not positive. I know the first year it was only 9 or 10,000. I think last year it was over 21,000 maybe. I'm not positive. I could look it up, Bill, but I'm not sure. So. But that was
About a third.
that's what we paid, and we got some money back, so it didn't cost us 21,000.
About a third of the computers that we send in are computers that are covered by Apple Care. The rest of them are because, students are not careful. And that's, saying it pretty bluntly, but that's basically the reason. Reality, yeah.
But very few kids that have to pay twice in 1 year, do we?
No, as of this point, I don't think we've had any. The smallest bill we've had has been $5, and I told the kid, I said, get the $5 out of your pocket, don't pay 50 cents, use your insurance on that. And that was because they popped off the keycap. And initially, I don't know if you can see how these little pads on the bottom, some of these were coming off. Well, I was taking super glue and gluing them back on because I figured to send it in, Apple would have a problem. But then Apple finally realized, we had a mistake in our design, and they replaced those for nothing. And we've had, I've got 8 or 9 chargers for the adapters in my office now that don't work. And they just quit working. Part of it because the cable, when you wrap it around, that breaks that cable at the top. Apple realized we had a poor design, so they're replacing those. But the only problem is, in order to get those replaced, I have to have the computers go with it. So I'm going to have to load the computers up, and I called Milford, and they said, if you can bring them up, we can do them all in one day. So I'll just grab the kids' computers for a day. You're going to be without your computer for a day. I'll take them up, we'll get those replaced. I have had spares that I have let the students use until they're still repaired, so, or replaced, basically.
And is there ever a case where a person can use their own computer and not use the school computer in school?
We do not have what's called bring your own device policy. And if it were up to me, I would just assume not, because you're just opening yourself up to malware, viruses, and whatever, because we know that these have antivirus software on them. And it works at home, it works at school. So I just do not have that on our network. A lot of schools are going to what's called, bring your own device, and letting kids use their cell phones or whatever to use it. Because cell phones will have as much computing power as, computers did 5 years ago. So.
I also had a parent ask me, like if a freshman class comes in, there's a 3-year lease. So the freshmen come in and they use it for 3 years. Then they'd have the option maybe of buying it, but they would have that same computer all the way through. But every freshman class would get to do computers instead of you use 3 and then...
Well, that would be something that, you as a board would have to decide if we want to replace one class of computers every year.
But that would be possible.
As far as I know, that's something that, again, as far as your lease goes, that computer's going to be under lease for 3 years,
Right.
And that lease is up.
Okay, because the parent was told that they didn't think that was possible, I don't know who she talked to here, because there would be different levels of newness in the computers, is what she understood.
Well, when we get new computers, they'll have a new operating system on
Right,
them.
right. But the old operating systems would still be workable.
They would still work with our system right now, but if we happen to upgrade our server, it may not. You know, that I'm not sure of.
I think the reason we did it this way is so that every kid had exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
Exactly the same software, the same version, the same edition, same everything.
And that's why we have the same stuff on the teacher's computers, so, you know, the teacher's not using software that the student doesn't
It's
have.
outdated or advanced.
Or using a version of the software.
Really, I think the computers have overall, Jerry, held up pretty well.
They have,
to be honest
yes.
with you. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think we've kind of looked at it, we've talked about it in administrative meetings, and I think we feel most parents, for the $35 plus, let's say they got one big bill of $700 and they had to pay 10% of that. So for a little over $100, their kid got a laptop to use every day all school year. That's pretty good. I mean, for a computer
And
that would cost
nights
them,
and weekends and
Yeah.
Christmas vacation. And
for a computer that would cost them $1,100 if they wanted to buy their son or daughter one. So, but we're still talking about what to do for the next 3 years. I mean, we haven't made a proposal yet to the board, and still trying to figure out. We did buy some iPads, and we got some teachers using some iPads, trying them. And so we're trying to decide where we want to go next. So we have a new Apple rep, correct?
yes, we do.
And we haven't
A
met
young
with the
lady.
new Apple rep yet. They'll be coming sometime. So. Any questions of Jerry? Sorry, I thought it'd be good to have him come visit with you at least.
Yeah, that was good.
Let you know.
Good information. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's still working.
Did you have anything on the side screen?
I did talk a little bit about the timeline with the meeting, so.
Then we're ready for the action items.
I think we're ready.
Need a motion for minutes of the December 10th board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Shelkoff and seconded by Kleinschmidt that the board approve the minutes of the December 10th, 2012 regular Board of Education meeting as presented. Discussion? Roll call.
Shelkoff,
Yes.
Kleinschmidt, Oshner,
Yes.
Donovan, Lightline,
Yes.
Maloli,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Nunn, Delmeyer.
Yeah. Need a motion for the financial reports.
So moved.
Second.
Dick.
Moved by Lightline and seconded by Oshner that the board approve the financial reports as presented. Discussion? Roll call?
Lightline,
Yes.
Oshner,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Shelkoff,
Yes.
Kleinschmidt,
Yes.
Maloli,
Yes.
and yes, Delmeyer.
Yes. Need a motion for claim?
So moved.
Moved by Shelkoff and seconded by Lightline that the board approve the general fund claims in the amount of $349,333.70. Discussion? Roll call?
Shelkoff,
Yes.
Lightline,
Yes.
Kleinschmidt,
Yes.
Maloli,
Yes.
Nunn, yes, Oshner,
Yes.
Delmeyer,
Yes.
O'Connor.
Appointment of district treasurer, Lynn Hauser. Need a motion? Moved by Oshner and seconded by Lightline that the board approve the at-will appointment of Lynn Hauser as district treasurer. Discussion? Roll call?
Oshner,
Yes.
Lightline,
Yes.
Kleinschmidt,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Maloli, 9 yes, Shelkoff,
Yes.
Delmar.
Yes. The FCEA as a bargaining agent. Need a motion?
So moved.
It's moved by Shelkoff and seconded by Lightline that the board recognize the Fillmore Central Education Association as the exclusive bargaining unit for teaching staff. Discussion? Roll call?
Shelkoff,
Yes.
Lightline,
Yes.
Maloli,
Yes.
9 yes, Oshner,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Kleinschmidt, Delmar.
Yes. We move into discussion items. First is a review of the board self-evaluation form. This was tabled last month. Any comments on that?
I think it should be put to the February meeting when we meet as a board, outside of the school board meeting, or goals and looking at that.
Oh, at the retreat meeting? Okay. Any questions on it? Guess we'll table it again. Review of the 2013 calendar.
Jody enclosed the calendar. That's basically just a tool we use so we don't forget anything. Don't always do everything exactly the month prescribed, but we try to. Sometimes, depending on the agenda, we may move something to January from February or to March from February, depending. But for the most part, it just helps us keep everything in line. And Jody, it's kind of Jody's document that she uses. I know negotiations timeline has changed, so there might be some alterations there, but we wanted to give the board a chance to look at it. Jody and I'll go through it, and there may be some recommended changes for next month when we need to adopt it. But for right now, it's just for you to look over and make sure we didn't omit anything. Kind of gives you an idea of when we do things during the year.
The FCPS grading policy.
Put a copy in the packet, and I'd like to do a presentation next month. It's something that a committee of teachers and administrators have been working on for close to 2 years. It's basically, in a nutshell, is trying to take our grades 3 through 12 and put them on the same sort of page as far as grading, so that a 90% in English means what it means and means the same in all grades. And I presented it to the teachers at one of our work days in January. Got a lot of comments and good comments, so the committee's going to meet again in February, and we'll probably make some adjustments on there just a little bit, just some wording and whatever. But and then I'd like to make about a 15-minute presentation at the February board meeting and go over basically the same thing I went with the teaching staff and kind of explain it to you. And this would be something we'd want as far as in our handbooks, and so that's policy that the board adopts and approves. So we want to make sure that we had the support of the board. I don't necessarily want to put it in board policy. I think it's better in a handbook that you adopt and approve anyway, than it's really a part of board policy. And, the comments I've got from the staff have been positive. Of course, I don't always get all the negative ones, but at least what I've told the staff is they can talk to anybody on the committee. We got a 10-person committee, and our 10-person committee's meeting, I think, the 6th of February. And we're going to go over comments from the staff and make some changes, and then our board meeting's on the 11th, and I'll have some of the committee there, and we'll schedule for the end of the meeting, the last discussion item. I'll do a little presentation if that's all right with you guys. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's been fun work and it's been great. It's been a combined effort from a lot of people to try to get us on the same page. So.
Any questions about that? Board policy review, 6200 through 6260.
Is there a checklist in there?
Sheets on the-
It's on the front.
On the very
I
front.
don't know if I handed
The next item is discuss the contract extension for the superintendent.
Well, I think I told you last month that we do it this month, but Jody reminded me that when it's a new board election, we normally wait until February because it's always been unfair for a new board member to have to make that kind of vote on his or her first board meeting. So we put it back on as a discussion item. So.
Have you had a 2-year contract since you've been here? On the first year?
That's the way the majority of the schools in our conference do it.
So you talked to the other schools and that's what
Yes.
they, that's why we make sure we're actually talking to them.
The workshop in Kearney, they said 50 to 60% of schools have 2-year contracts. And probably 10 to 20 have a 3-year contract. And those are superintendents that everything's going great. You know, everybody loves them and usually a bigger school. And then the remaining is a 1-year contract, usually for new or a smaller school, Class B, or a superintendent maybe they've had some issues with. That's kind of, I kind of asked out there about that, and that's what they said. They said 2-year was pretty common.
Who was the presenter?
John Spatz. And Berman was out there, and they had a new legal gal, I don't remember her name. She was a new one. It was a good worker. I didn't know whether you'd have that every year since you've been here or not.
It's basically, it's like 2 1-year contracts. I mean, it's not one contract covering 2 years. It's a contract for 13, 14, and a contract for 14, 15, and then, you know, one gets renewed every February, January, whichever month we do it in.
So on 14, 15, just an example, I'm not trying to imply anything, but we renewed your contract, and then say there was a termination, we're still bound to that contract, aren't we? Monetary?
I think so. But my hope would be I'd find a job.
Right.
And then you're not bound to that contract because I can't be under contract at 2 different places. So.
Because same scenario, if you were under contract and you moved on to a better situation for yourself, then we're kind of out there looking for a new superintendent.
You can hold me to the contract, though, and you don't have to let me leave.
Right.
Most of the time professionally they do, but
right.
You know, that's the contract.
But if you weren't to become an employee, then there probably wouldn't be any.
Then there's probably be, well, I think there's always some negotiations. I mean, if I've been treated well and I feel good about the board and they feel good about me, we're going to part amicably somehow. You know,
I didn't know how that worked with her, and I wanted to know whether we were.
I think, you know, I wouldn't have packed my wife and belongings and 3 little kids and moved 3 hours away for a 1-year contract. You know, and so if we part ways, whenever we part ways, you're not gonna find somebody for a 1-year contract. I'll guarantee you that. Not a school this size. You just won't, unless you're giving somebody an interim or a trial run type thing. But you're not gonna hire anybody with any experience on a 1-year contract. just won't. Now, I don't know anybody in our conference that has a 3-year, but there might be somebody that has a 3-year. But I don't know anybody in our conference that does. Jerry Phillips at David City is retiring this year, and he's the longest serving superintendent in our conference. It's his 14th year. So next year, Kevin Wingard of Milford and me will be the longest serving superintendents in the conference, and it'll be 9 years out of 11 superintendents. I don't think that's very long. I mean, it sure seems like it's gone fast, but that's kind of the nature of the business. This is this Class C kind of area. I mean, superintendents, if they're young, they're moving on to a bigger school, or they're staying and then they're retiring at their spot. We've lost Norm Yoder, retired last year after 27 years at Henderson. Kent Miller retired the year before after 25 years at Sandy Creek. So, you know, we have Tri-County is going to hire a new superintendent in David City in the conference. I think that's the only two that we know of at this point in time. So.
Yeah, I think this is something we've always done, is give that additional year. It's a protection for the superintendent, but I guess it's a protection for the school too. It would give us some flexibility. But I can never think of a time that we didn't release a superintendent.
Yeah, I think that's normal.
That's just good.
And you know, I think I've always said if we don't get along and the board wants me to move on, all they got to do is ask. I'm about the easiest person to fire you got on staff. There's no tenure. There's no principals have tenure and teachers have tenure. And, you know, we don't have tenure. It's no fun for you and me, either one of us, if we clash and we can't get along and we don't have goals the same and whatever. It's not worthwhile. I'll find a job. I'm pretty employable. I was looking for a job when I found this one. I can do it again. But my family likes it here, and it's a good place, and it's a good school system. It's good people. I mean, we've done a lot of things in 8 years, and I think we've made a lot of progress. And I'm a positive person. We've done a lot of positive things, and so.
Do you have any other questions for Mr. Norvell? Okay, then we will decide on that. The next board meeting is Monday, February 11th at 7:30. Any conflicts?
I think maybe there's a junior high game, but I don't think that really impacts any of us, so I think everything's okay. Yeah, I keep hoping we'll be the #1 seed, Sean, and get a bye.
I agree with that.
But you're right. It is girls sub-district basketball, which I wouldn't want to miss if we're playing, and I know Sean wouldn't want to miss, and some others. So we might have to kind of play it by ear.
Yeah, it's the junior high basketball games at 5:30 is the.
Where's the sub-district?
Sub-district York, up at York.
York?
Yeah. We're up,
That's not too far.
We can work with it.
We can probably look around just unless it's an even district, you know, with even number of teams, then it would do. I haven't even looked at our district, so 6 teams maybe.
Milford, well, our sub-district, Milford, everybody else.
No,
They're over
they're on the other side.
David City?
Wilbur.
Wilbur. There's 5.
We should sit pretty good.
Hoping to win.
Keep on. We don't want to jinx ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. Just keep on.
And we have a motion for adjournment. Vice Smith, second by Lyon. Roll call.
Kleinschmidt.
Yes.
Lightline.
Yes.
Lilly.
Yes.
And then yes, Oshner.
Yes.
Shelkoff.
Yes.
O'Connor.
Yes.
Joe Meyer.